Welcome. It's good to see you all. I am Todd Wolfson. I know you all are. It's great to be with you all. I'm president of AAUP, he, him pronouns, faculty member at Rutgers. And as I said, happy May Day to everyone. We are a partner of May Day Strong, which it really anchored the May Day actions today. And I think there were 1,000+ actions across the US. In Philly, where I'm at, we had a huge action with Bernie Sanders, which is really fun. And I know of AAUP chapters across the country that were out in the streets. So I think tonight we just wanted to spend a little time, give some updates to folks about what's been going on, talk some about where we think things are going to go in broad terms, not with as much specifics as we want to give, but some specifics. We also have some partners and allies who we want to be working with through this next period that will come and join us. And then we want to leave a lot of time for question and answer. And so I think that's the real goal here, and have some dialogue with you all. And so I'll say when we get to Q&A, which should be the second half of the meeting, that we ask everyone to step up and step back. So if you're speaking a lot, we ask you to step back, maybe make space for others. And if you're not speaking, we need your voice in this discussion. And we also ask both in the chat, because we've had some issues, but also when we talk to each other, we could disagree. We should disagree. We're not going to all agree on everything, but let's try to do it with respect for one another, and maybe no name calling if possible. I know that's a high bar for us to reach, but let's try for it. And so I think we should start with the updates. And I think Rotua, you are going to jump in first. So I'm going to pass it to you.
Yes, thank you. So we are preparing for the Summer Institute 25. It will be held on from July 17th to July 20th, and we are co-hosting it with our partner, AFT. It will be in Atlanta, and we are hosting it on the Morehouse College campus. We are very excited about this. So we're finalizing the registration site, and so it will be ready soon. So you can see here, the first day on July 17th, we are going to have an all-day Skills to Win training. We're very excited to bring it with KB and her crew, of course, in person. And as you see there, our focus is really on organizing, because we have to broaden our base and build our capacity to fight, so we will win this fight. And so as you see there, these are some of you can see our schedule, our program right now, and we also have a mobilization training that is hosted by AFT on Sunday afternoon. So it's actually post-conference, post-Summer Institute. We are very excited. AFT is very excited to be able to offer this mobilization training, which will be very, very important, as we have seen in the last few months. So just so we'll let you know, of course, we will send, we will email, we will send an update when the registration is ready. But we also, we will ask, we want to actively recruit those who have done the Skills to Win training, either in November or February or both. We would love if you co-host, co-lead or co-facilitate the Skills to Win sessions or some of the workshop sessions. Thank you. Back to you, Todd.
Rotua, thanks for all of your work on this. I think we're going to keep moving. I'm going to pass it to you, Vina, to talk about the legal landscape.
Hi, friends. It's wonderful to be with you on International Workers' Day today, and to share this space with you and to remember that we are strong across the country, organized together. As you all know, in the last many weeks, we've seen continuing NIH cuts, NEH cuts, and NSF cuts. It seems like many of these cuts are around maybe DEI related things, but it's kind of hard to know. The 60 schools that were targeted prior for the Title VI investigations are also particularly seeing cuts, but the strategy seems to be a little bit different than it was before. Before, when we saw it at Harvard and Columbia, we saw these demand letters and then cuts, and now we're seeing cuts trickle in kind of week to week. So in response, we're thinking through legal strategies without laying all of our cards out, also pursuing perhaps some kind of litigation strategy at schools that are not the elites to make clear both to the broader public and to, I guess, everyone, that this isn't just about elite universities, that really it is public universities and small universities and large universities across the country that are being impacted. With regard to our existing lawsuits, Harvard, as you know, filed suit after we filed suit. We are in front of the same judge. We may consolidate the cases, which would be great because we would kind of be at the table as they're negotiating. The Columbia case is moving along, and then we had a really exciting update in our AAUP v. Rubio case. Many of you either participated in or signed on to amicus briefs in the preliminary injunctive stage of that case. We had the hearing. I think it was last week. It just feels like a whirlwind. The judge turned the hearing into, very unusually, into a motion to dismiss hearing. So assuming that the government wanted to dismiss the claims based on their response to our initial preliminary injunction motion. And we got a very positive decision yesterday, I want to say, maybe day before yesterday. And the judge said that we survived the motion to dismiss, that we have colorable claims. And he used some really interesting, strong language with regard to our First Amendment claims in particular. Really distinguished the decisions from the McCarthy era. Actually, we think maybe even developing the First Amendment law in a way that's strong for us. And so that's all very good news. You've also seen, of course, that the SEVIS terminations that our students all experienced over the last many weeks have been reversed. We expect that the DHS is going to, not all of them have been reversed, I should say. On some of our campuses, it's being done individually, so it's quite slow, and the damage is done. We have students have already left the country or not coming back. That said, many students have had the SEVIS status terminations reversed, and we now are fearful that what's going to happen is that the Department of Homeland Security is going to come up with some more systematic way to go back to targeting international students. And so we're keeping an eye on that and preparing, doing a bunch of legal research and analysis to get ready to send something to the Office of General Counsels, to send to you, that you can use to advocate for your Office of General Counsels to make sure that your students and faculty who are non-citizens are safe. So that's my brief update.
Thank you, Vina. Mia, I'm going to pass it to you.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Mia McIver. I'm the Executive Director of AAUP. Happy May Day. I joined in action here in Washington, D.C., near our AAUP main office, and was there with siblings from AFT, from CWA, from EWOC, the Emergency Workers Organizing Committee, and other unionists also, and it was a great time. I'm going to speak a little bit to the legislative situation and to the changing kind of political landscape. Donald Trump is going to release his budget proposal tomorrow. And as time goes by, as we are mounting fierce resistance, the Trump administration is finding that they are actually not able to force through everything that they were hoping to force through, right? And that's because of us and our amazing work. So we're moving away from a phase of executive orders into a phase where they're going to try to keep attacking colleges and universities and higher ed workers through the budget process, through legislation. And so we're going to need to adjust our tactics as they adjust their tactics as well. So Republicans are looking to cut $330 billion in higher ed funding, and they want to pay, they want to take money away from our colleges and universities to pay for tax cuts for the rich, for even harsher immigration policies, and to keep funding the war machine, right? So that's kind of how they want to move the budget around. With some credit to our coalition partner, Debt Collective, I want to talk a little bit about what kind of some of the legislation is going to mean for students, for faculties, for our institutions. So the bills that are currently pending are going to make a college education accessible really only to the wealthy few, because they're going to slash student aid, they're going to slash Pell Grants. The administration is basically going to tell the working class to either not go to college, or that they have to take out loans with shady private lenders who are going to possibly defraud them. The Republicans' plan hikes monthly payments for student loan borrowers, and cutting Pell Grants is probably going to cause student enrollments to plummet. So that in turn will push debt-financed institutions into precarity and possibly even into default and bankruptcy. Plus, at the same time, you have related impacts of other policies, right? So tariffs could slow the economy, could reduce state tax revenues, could lead to cuts at community colleges and state schools, right? So states are not going to be likely in a position to make up for any funding gaps that the Trump administration or the Congress are forcing through on the backs of students and their families. So long story short, these attacks are broadening, right? Congress is now kind of in the driver's seat with the budget process and with this legislation. And that means that our strategic orientation moving forward is also going to be focused on Congress, and that we have to organize to make our voices heard to members of Congress. We have to identify key legislative inflection points that we can organize around. And I look forward to talking with all of you through the summer and into the fall about how we can have a meaningful effect and how we can leverage the budget and the legislation processes to defend higher ed and actually keep putting forward our positive vision for what colleges and universities should be and do.
Thank you so much, Mia. Okay, so I think we have a couple partners here. I think we want to just have a discussion now about how we want to approach the next few months and lay out some of our thinking, and then from there have a back and forth about that. But also people are going to have questions about the legal terrain or new cuts that are coming to the NSF tomorrow, we're hearing, et cetera. So we want to make space for those sorts of discussions too. And obviously what things look like nationally don't look the same at each of our schools. And so we want to hear about that as well. We want to hear from you so that we can figure out how to move forward together. I think what I wanted to say as we go into this discussion about like what's next, how do we approach next, is to say this, which is that, the last couple months have been an onslaught of attacks on higher ed. But I think as always, we need to remember that the attacks on higher ed that we've seen in the last few months wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't had 50 years of massive divestment from higher ed prior to that. And the relationship of a sort of neoliberal divestment at the federal and state level from higher ed is deeply entwined with this authoritarian right-wing attack that we're seeing right now. And we need to understand the relationship of these things if we're going to be able to respond to it. And so we've said this before, but we see responding in 3 or maybe 4 core ways. The first is, and Vina laid this out in the courts, and I think now we sued the Trump administration 5 times. We've written a bunch of amicus briefs, and we will continue that path. And sometimes we will get serious relief from that path. But we also know and need to be clear that we're not going to end the threats to ourselves and to our democracy in the courts alone. And so another place that we feel like we really need to fight is at the ballot box or with our elected leaders. There are many states throughout this country that are purple districts, that are red districts, where the material cuts to the NIH, to the NSF, the attacks on our universities are threatening to the livelihood of those states. And we need to have real conversations with those elected officials about the material impact of this massive attack on higher ed, on the livelihood, and the consequences it's going to have on those constituents. So we're going to need to figure out how to do that and do that better. It has never been a strong suit of this organization, but we can't afford not to have discussions with our elected leaders about the attacks on higher ed anymore. It's just not possible, and we can't focus those discussions with the people who wouldn't. I mean, the Democrats are not perfect. I'm not here to say that they're a solution for us, but they're not the ones that are going to initiate these specific attacks we're up against right now. And so we need to talk to the people who are aligned with the Trump administration that he needs to move forward his budget and to move forward his continuing resolution and his reconciliation process. So that's the second, is elected leaders and the ballot box. A third is we need to move a counter narrative here and remind people why higher ed is so important to this country, and always has been. Why it's been an engine of our economy, both at the national level, but also in the small towns where our 2- and 4-year institutions are engines of local economies. Why it's been critical to innovation in our healthcare. Also, as we've said many times, it's the reason we have the internet. Much of that was produced in the labs of our universities. So why higher ed is an engine of innovation in this country, but also why it's a way that kids get a leg up in the economy. And that's why people send their kids to school, so that they have a better chance. And when Trump attacks our higher ed, he attacks everybody's imagination of having a better life. And we need to remind folks of that. So there's a narrative fight we need to take on. But then the last fight, and the fight I really want to lean into right now, is the fight in the streets, right? Because again, us organizing and building our power, that's how we win ultimately. This is not, we need to make the better argument, but this arguments alone will not win. We have to meet force with force. And so I just want to outline that we've been doing that. And we've been doing Organize Every Campus. We've done 2 rounds of that. We think that we have grown by about 25% of membership. We'll be able to say at least by the end of this calendar year that we've grown by about 10,000 members is my guess. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close, and we'll announce that as it comes. So organizing is critical to this, but also getting in the streets, talking to our colleagues and lifting our voices together. And we've been doing that throughout the spring. We had an action on the 19th of February, another in DC on the 25th of February, an action on the 8th of April, a powerful culminating action on the 17th of April. And then all of our locals joined in on amazingly organized events that took place today. But days of action aren't enough. They also aren't the solution. We need to figure out what comes next, and that's what we want to talk about now. And so before we get into that, we want to invite in 2 partners. I'm not sure if Jessica can speak yet, so I'm going to ask Saqib Bhatti to speak first. Saqib has been one of the key organizers of May Day Strong. He has also been helping us on all sorts of work around research around our board of trustees, and he's the executive director of the Action Center on Race and the Economy, and just like one of my favorite humans. Saqib, we want to hear what you're thinking and how we can work together.
Thank you, Todd, for that really, really generous introduction. Today's been just amazing, right? We actually had the most May Day actions in US history today, over 1,000 actions, and they're still going on. They started at 7 a.m. Eastern, and they're going to keep going until like 9 or 10 p.m. which is just amazing. We is this better? Am I easier? Is it easier to hear? Or okay. Yeah, so it's just been really sort of a remarkable turnout. Like people have, just really, I think people are fed up, angry, and have had enough. And so this has been just really great. We had a check-in just a couple of hours ago, and at the time we were sort of estimating based on the different crowds that it was 250,000 people, but that was before the 5 o'clock hour, and a lot of the rallies were actually planned for after 5 p.m. And so we're expecting the numbers to go up significantly. We just had a call today actually to start to think through what are our next steps, right? So one of the key things we're realizing is that, it's great, all the mobilizations that are taking place, all the big actions, and we need to figure out how we're actually making the actions more disruptive, right? So that it's not business as usual. It actually starts to hit them where it hurts. And to be able to do that, what we need to do is actually develop the broader public analysis around the moment we're in and who's responsible for the pain that we're suffering, right? So we're talking about doing a few different things. One is just, we're for now calling the Striking for the Common Good School. So a series of sort of trainings that are political education around sort of the techno-fascist threat that we're facing right now, to really broadly popularize what is actually happening, what needs to be done to stop it. More corporate research trainings. We loved the partnership with y'all to figure out connections to board members and their corporate connection, university board members and their connections to corporations enabling Trump. We want to expand on that to really do broader work on corporate research trainings. One, just scenario planning, right? We know that the other side has a very clear plan for how to consolidate authoritarian power. So we want to do some scenario planning and training that really to equip us for that moment. We also want, as Todd mentioned, KB leading the Skills to Win trainings. We want to do more of those for actually the broader public, not just for individual unions, but actually come one, come all, and really sort of tailor that to this moment of what does it look like to strike for the common good. And then we're talking about doing speakers bureaus, right? So actually training up folks who can go and actually do presentations at different places, at different meetings of both community organizations and unions and on campuses to really start to develop people's analysis around what's happening. And then of course, connecting this all with the big mobilizations with disruptions, right? And so the next big one AAUP is throwing down for is on June 14th, right? So that's coinciding with Trump's birthday / Flag Day military parade, right? It's a very, it gives very triumph of the will vibes, where he's literally he's throwing himself a big military parade on his birthday. And so I know that's sort of the next big push right now is that one. But yeah, so we're excited to keep working with y'all and so keep building. But yeah, right now and we're having a call next week on Thursday, May 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern. bit.ly/Mayday debrief. I'll drop the link in the chat after I'm done talking to register for it. And that's where we're going to lay out what the next, both do a recap of the events of today and this weekend, because the Mayday Strong sort of events continue through Sunday, but then also lay out the next steps. So we're really excited to work with y'all. Really glad that y'all we were able to throw it down together today, and excited to keep building on that.
Thank you so much, Sakib, and thank you for your leadership. Also, we have somebody who may be Wi-Fi challenged. I'm not sure, but Jessica Tang. She's also one of the people I love working with. She's the president of AFT Massachusetts, national vice president. I think she's still at a rally in Boston, and we want to think through the alliance between K-12 and higher ed. Jessica, thank you so much for peeling off for a minute from the rally to join us.
No problem. We are still marching here in Boston for May Day. It's incredible. We had several thousand people join us. We have events all over Massachusetts, more than a dozen happening all at the same time. And in K-12 education, we actually kicked off May Day with walk-ins this morning in dozens of our schools too. We partnered with the Mass Teachers Association. I'm president of AFT Massachusetts, and that's how we started our day, and we're still going. And I don't know if you can hear the background, but it's a beautiful sight behind me. So yeah, in K-12 education, we're thinking a lot about next steps and trying to think about, what are our strengths and where do we need to build? Where are the areas that we need to strengthen our activist muscles? And so the Resistance Committee, which I love that Todd is a part of as well, is meeting weekly or every couple of weeks to figure out, what's the next action? How do we continue to build and mobilize? And so it's still a work in progress, but I can tell you that the AFT is really committed to a lot of the mass mobilization training skills that need to happen. And so, for example, at our Teach Conference this summer, it's an annual conference that there's actually going to be mass mobilization trainings. And we're also thinking about how do we continue to engage our members even over summer break. I think that in higher ed, you guys have that problem too, where, typically people disappear for a couple months, but authoritarianism is not going to disappear. So we've got to really figure out how do we keep the momentum going and the mobilization and engagement. And again, the activist muscle exercised and growing. So we are going to definitely be mobilizing towards the events that Takan had mentioned as well. But also thinking about how we open up our union halls to be sites for our communities to get the kind of training that we do need to have larger mass mobilization. Because everything that we've learned from other countries, right, is that the way we fight back is by getting in the streets. And sorry, I'm like literally walking in the street right now. We're shutting down the streets in Boston here. But that's what we have to do. And we have to do it, continue to do it and sustain ourselves to do it. And that does take a lot of work. It does take a lot of muscle. So if we can open up our union halls and do the trainings there, then one, we're coalition building, we're building partnerships, we're building trust, we're also building skills. And then also hopefully keeping ourselves energized as we continue to mobilize and organize throughout the summer. So just wanted to share some of those ideas, but I think one important thing to remember right now, though, is that we've got to be nimble and flexible and creative in the way that we fight back. And so all ideas we're exploring, and our Resistance Committee is going to continue to meet and hear from our local leaders, and also think about using 10-minute meetings for union meetings to do some political education. Also thinking about putting together some teach-in toolkits that we could use and open up our union halls to conduct as well. So those are ways that we can all partner with higher ed too, because like you all, we're educators and we got to use that strength in helping to do the political education needed to build our movement and build the tent. So I'll stop there, but I don't know if you can see the march here, but several blocks long, and solidarity to everyone here, and happy International Work Day to everyone too.
Thank you, Jessica. You're the best. Get back in that rally. We appreciate it. Okay, so we're really thankful for Sakib and Jessica to come for a minute. And we just didn't invite them because they're in the middle of marches, but because it's part of what the strategy we see developing is going to look like. And so I just want to lay this out. I want to invite Mia to also add to it. And then we want to open this up for discussion. But I think first and foremost, we need to recognize that just rallies and marches alone is probably not going to stop what we're up against. And so we have to think about what comes next. And we don't have solutions. We don't have we don't have an answer in the box here. There's going to be a lot of discussions. But I think that there's a broad understanding that we have to escalate our tactics. And alongside that, I think there needs to be a recognition that higher ed workers alone cannot protect against the attacks on higher ed. I'm going to say that again. I think we all need to reckon with this. Higher ed workers, even higher ed workers and our students alone can't push back and win the fight successfully against the attacks coming from the federal government. We must build alignment with other sectors that are under threat right now. And so we purposefully asked Jessica to come as a leader of pre-K-12 organizing. We asked Sakib to come because he's been key in organizing the May Day formation, which is workers from all over the map and everyday residents, and also immigrant workers who are under very particular types of threats, both immigrant workers on our campus who are getting abducted off the streets, and immigrant workers in our communities who are also getting abducted, right? And so there's an important alliance to build there. And the last group that we really want to build with is the federal workers who are getting laid off in mass numbers. They couldn't come tonight, but we are working with them. And so what we want to do is to build sort of a table of higher ed workers, pre-K-12, the folks involved in May Day, federal workers, other workers too, healthcare workers. And we want to expand this as much as possible. And we want to think about what an aligned strategy would be. And I think the only other things I'll say here are that the summertime and getting folks trained is really important. And you heard Sakib talk about this some. He talked about a strike school. And you heard Jessica talk about it too. And so we really want to have and offer both local face-to-face trainings where possible. And we're going to do it ourselves at the Summer Institute. So local face-to-face trainings, using our union halls, where we're training our members in things like direct action, one-on-one and mass organizing, comms, and really, and then through that also building a collective plan for how to move this forward. And so I just want to underline those things. The last thing I want to underline is that we want to do this over the summer with a plan of being able to respond to the budget cycle that emerges in the fall, particularly the continuing resolution. We want to have a series of demands that protect all the sectors and protect the broader society. And then we want to figure out a way to, and this has to be done in mass numbers. If we don't have mass numbers, we're not going to be able to do this. If we can't do this in the thousands, we can't do it, because it just the danger, the threat against us is quite serious. But we want to be able to really express our will here, whether it's defending Social Security and Medicare, or it's demanding full funding of NIH, NSF, or it's demanding the right to protest and collective bargaining rights, or it's fighting for the no elimination of the DOE. And full funding of the DOE, or also no layoffs of federal workers. But we're only going to be able to do that if we can do that at scale. And so training and organizing is going to be key to that, and using the summer to get ourselves ready is going to be key to that. And I'm just going to leave it there, but pass it to you, Mia, to see if you want to add any more. And then I think from there we want to talk about this, and then also we know folks have other kind of questions too, so we want to open it up to that stuff as well.
Yeah, I'll just say really briefly kind of how all of you can make that happen in your local contexts, right? Because Todd and the rest of our leaders are in daily contact with or liaising with the leaders of other national organizations. But this movement really has to be grown at the grassroots level by all of you. And as members and leaders in your AAUP chapters, you can build these coalitions locally. You can reach out to student groups on your campus and see where you are aligned. If you are in an advocacy chapter, you can reach out to the leaders of other unions on your campus, right? And see where there is alignment. If you are a community college faculty member, reach out to the faculty at the small liberal arts college, in your region. If you are at a research university, reach out to the community college faculty who are in your area, right? So there are lots and lots of ways that these alliances and these coalitions need to get built at the local level, and you all are going to be the leaders who make that happen.
Thank you, Mia. So again, some of this plan we'll just have to develop, and we'll invite you all in to work with us. Rotu and Vina, if you want to jump in, please do. If not, we want to get into a conversation now. We want the next 25 minutes to really be back and forth. I've seen some questions in the chat. But I'm hoping we can have a dialogue. So I'm hoping folks will use the raise hand function and we can talk. But Vina, I see you off mute. Do you want to jump in?
Sure. I just there was, I thought, a really good question. Teresa Shade said, how do we get young people involved? And this is something that I think we talk about a lot in our meetings. And I think it's where our members and our chapters can have the most movement. Todd pointed out the other day, and I thought this was I just hadn't even occurred to me that in all of these other places where there are authoritarian movements, there are often student unions, and our students don't have their own unions, and so that's something that we can support. I also think the summer is so critical, and this is just coming from me, not from the executive committee at all. But I had expressed some interest in reaching out to my local community, doing talks with parents in my communities about what's happening to higher ed, because this is not going to be clear to them until it starts to affect their kids when they apply for college in 5 years and 6 years and 7 years, when their kids try and go to graduate school. And so to have those kinds of conversations, not just with young people, but also with old people, I think there's a lot of creative stuff that can be done over the next few months in the summer, even as school is out. And so I would love support to make stuff like that happen. So if that's of interest to you, reach out and let's have a conversation about what broader political education might look like in not just amongst our coworkers and colleagues, but also in our communities more broadly.
So great. Please jump in.
Yeah, Abel Bildito from the University of Alaska, Fairbanks. I was attending a forum where the General Counsel was telling international students that the University Council could not represent them or provide legal help because it would be a conflict because they're sponsoring the visa. Is that correct?
It's not, and I have a memo coming out in the coming days. It's just in draft form that we'll send to our chapter leaders with legal analysis that you can use to have conversations with your general counsel as to why there is no problem under federal law with providing some form of access to legal counsel.
Thank you.
Look at that. You ask, you got a quick, good answer. Thank you, Vina. To Murray's point in the chat, I want to and then we'll get the feel, just so folks know, we do have a table called Labor for Higher Ed. It includes 9 international unions. One of them is UAW. They've been key to that. And so we are building deeply with UAW. Many of the actions we've been doing have been with UAW and with their grad worker locals. I think what Vina was pointing to is slightly different, which is that undergrads often have national student unions that represent them at the national level. We don't have that right now in the US, so it's really hard. If we want to get our undergrads involved, we have to do it campus by campus. There's not national there is Sunrise, there is Students for Justice in Palestine, there is US Student Association is starting to get back up on its feet, but there's not a singular really strong student organization that's national that can help us organize on all of our campuses at once. And so that presents a more work between our 500 chapters. We need to probably figure out a process for supporting every chapter reaching out to their student groups on their campuses. So maybe that's something we can think through collectively and collaboratively. I see Fiona on Stack. Fiona, please jump in.
Hey, thank you. I just wanted a quick follow-up to the last question. So on our campus, the Board of Trustees is kind of at odds with the rest of the university. The university is very much opposed to the Trump administration. That's less clear about the Board of Trustees. And so we got this really interesting public university position, which is that we were told that if anybody at the university was arrested or had difficulties, particularly international people, the university could do nothing because that would be giving a private benefit from state funds. So that was a specific claim that was made. In response, our local AAUP chapter has started a legal fund. So that's great. But I'm just wondering if you have any reaction to that, or if you will also include that in your letter that you're sending out.
Thanks, Fiona. Can you tell me the university you're at?
University of Connecticut.
University of Connecticut. Yeah, I had heard that. I had heard that kind of opposition. I don't think that that's right. I think that these general counsel's offices are just coming up with all kinds of excuses. I explored that when I heard that, and it's just not right. Public universities provide private counsel to people all the time. It's just an excuse to not have to do it. And so it's not explicitly in the memo because it's such a silly kind of thing. But certainly if you reach out to me, maybe we can chat a little bit more about it. But I think the legal fund that you're talking about is probably like we're doing it in our or not a legal fund. We're doing, I guess it is legal fund. We're doing this on our campus to support our international students, and it's this kind of crowdsourcing, I think, has been really useful to our students, especially people who have lost housing, etc.
I'll also say, Fiona, at Rutgers, which is also a public institution, we are providing counseling. So there's a counterexample right there. All right, we're saying the chat's open. Come on, y'all. Let's get into a dialogue. We got struggle in front of us. We need to hear from you, even if you don't have a question, but you have thoughts. We want to hear from you. Or we can all try to catch up with Jessica. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, thanks so much for this. So two things. One is just we've had luck in South Carolina working with the ACLU. They provided defense to one of our students, and we've coordinated with them pretty successfully to fight anti-DEI legislation in our state house. The question I had is, like, how do we set up a legal defense? Should I be finding lawyers in South Carolina to help us, or is there guidance from AAUP national on all sorts of legal issues? Like, we run into, can we lobby? At what point do we become lobbyists and need to register? How do we set up a legal fund? Because that's something faculty actually did want to do for our, I think, a dozen students who had their CVIS status deleted. What kind of bank account do we need? That kind of like nuts and bolts stuff that unfortunately I'm inept at, but we do need to kind of know. So if anybody could help push me or point me in the right direction, or if there's some kind of guidance from AAUP National, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to hear what other people have done. At our campus, we literally just had one student collect the money and then went into the lawyer's accounts or went directly to students. So it was a really decentralized kind of process, nothing formal. And I think that there was, there's these, I don't even want to go into it, but Federal Criminal Code 1324, harboring. There's some concerns that giving money to people who might be here unlawfully in any way, you might get charged with harboring. And we sort of did a legal analysis to suggest that that wasn't the case, that people should feel free to give to these legal funds. But yes, I can provide you with some thoughts about how to go through thinking about organizing with respect to collecting the names of attorneys. There is actually an ongoing list of people who are willing to work pro bono or low bono that we can't put on a listserv, but that I can send to you directly if you send me an email. People who have volunteered, attorneys in different areas. So feel free to reach out to me about that. And also love to have more conversations with you individually about stuff that can be done in South Carolina in particular.
Thanks, Jenna.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we've got a union card drop going here at Penn State. This is Michelle at Penn State with SEIU, local 668. And there still seems to be like a just real divide between the notion that we need a union and that we need to have a national fight. And there's some of the organizers, both with SEIU, not Eric. Eric's great, but like some of the local organizers, and then some of the faculty organizers, just still seem to view having an AAUP chapter who's actively organizing and doing a membership drive, that's at odds with the union drive. So this is a long problem, and we're still dealing with it.
Michelle, can you articulate that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're having a really hard time with our membership drive, coming up against the belief that it is running counter to the union card drop.
Yeah, that's, and where are you hearing that from? From other faculty or from SEIU?
From SEIU organizers, not, Eric, okay, not the main Eric's great. I'm just going to say that Eric's great, and we're trying to figure this out. But some of the SEIU organizers and then some of the faculty organizers just seem to view having a large AAUP chapter as this is not the time. So I'm disturbed by this, and it's hard to deal with. Anyway, yeah, your thoughts.
I think it's hard to have this discussion with, I think we need to sit down with SEIU. I'm happy to have a meeting with you and some of the organizers and Eric Strobel, and have this dialogue with them directly, and even some of the faculty organizers of the card campaign. It's hard to, without them and trying to solve this is going to be impossible. So Michelle, I'm committed to being in a meeting with you on that. You're breaking up, but all right. Okay, we lost Michelle. We have Stan. Stan quit, but we know he's got some stuff to say. So go ahead, Stan, jump on in.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. And my viewpoint is rather different from what many of you have expressed. I'm very concerned with the radicalization of AAUP. Clearly, we have to have some involvement in politics, but I'm depressed by the way you and the executive committee have conducted the actions. I'm here at Rutgers at RBHS, and our portion of AAUP has written to National AAUP about some of our concerns of the faculty without an adequate response. I just spoke to our executive director about that earlier today. I can tell you that strength in the AAUP and unions at this time is essential, and that there are people who are now resigning from AAUP because of your radicalization. I think your incorporation of many of the pro-Hamas oriented organizations is misplaced. I think your bashing of Israel continually is misplaced. I don't think it belongs as part of the AAUP program. And I have personally resigned effective today from being a member of AAUP, despite my being a leader here at our university. And it's all because of your leadership and that of your current executive committee. I think your failure to appropriately concentrate on developing a joint agenda to broaden our base is misplaced. The radicalization, I think, is going to have terrible consequences for our members and bring the wrath of the Trump administration, which I vigorously oppose that administration, but their retaliatory measures in the short and medium term of whom I think are going to have a devastating impact upon our faculty and our staff and employees and our productivity.
Stan, you're good. We hear you. Thank you. And we've given you a chance to voice your opinion. I'll just say the numbers disagree with you. We've grown by leaps and bounds in membership since this new leadership. We've grown by leaps and bounds in new chapters. And so I understand that you feel uncomfortable with some of the decisions and positions we've made, but we are leading with our moral and ethical horizon, and we are leading to build the power of this organization to face the threats in front of us, and we're doing it effectively. And so again, you have every right to voice your opinion, but we are not standing down. We are stepping forward. And so I'm going to keep us moving. We have Walda, and then Malay, and then Chris. Go ahead, Walda.
Okay, thanks. So I really appreciate that AAU has really stepped up in defense of universities, academic workers, our students, and so on. I'm at a very inactive, non-political chapter at Howard University. And but that's not why I'm on this call. I am a sociologist, and there are a number of national and international sociological associations. Many of us, and most the folks I talk to tend to be on the radical side, but we wanted to know, is it possible for a professional association such as Society for the Study of Social Problems or the American Sociological Association that I think both have joined lawsuits. Is it possible for us to join or to affiliate with AAUP as a professional organization? Many of us are individually members, but it's just another way to kind of build capacity and to build, energy. So it's just a question.
Mia, do you want to respond?
Yeah, I think it's a question that a lot of people are asking and that we're having a lot of conversations about. Just to take one example, we met a couple of months ago now, actually, with the president of the American Geophysical Union for Earth Scientists, Dan Zaitchik, and we found a lot of points of alignment. And I was very happy to see that the AGU now is a professional organization that has also filed suit against the Trump administration. And so there are several professional organizations that are standing up and fighting back in much the same ways that we are. There are a lot of structural, organizational, representational, financial questions involved with any kind of formal affiliation that would have to be worked through, of course. But we need to build our movement, and we need to expand beyond our current base. And I think there's a lot of potential in the direction that you're pointing to, Waldo.
Great. Thanks.
Waldo, we'd love to work with you. So, I mean, maybe you could follow up with Mia and we can start to figure out, I think, a task force that thinks through like the relationship to professional associations and like a strategy it makes a lot of sense because we've been getting these questions. I see Chris and Fuat on stack, but I also saw, I think it's Malay, I hope I'm not saying your name wrong, drop off. Maybe we lost him. So, but if you are, or them, I'm sorry. But go ahead, Chris, and then Fuat.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Langone. I teach at Tennessee Tech University. Just in response to what Mr. Weiss had said, this is my first time joining my first meeting. I joined because I felt it could help empower some of the things that I could do as a faculty member against the Trump administration. So I'm a new member that has come evidently because of the, I guess, perceived radicalization. I mean, so I teach in a red state. I'm a lawyer. I have a law degree in Illinois, and Vina, I'm happy to talk to you about donating some pro bono work. I've been active with the American Association for Justice and the Chicago National Lawyers Guild chapters, and so I'm happy to review briefs or do whatever in terms of anything in Illinois where I am admitted. And I also know a lot of people at Oakton Community College that I could try to see if I can get involved. But my question really relates to what can we do in red states? It's a little more difficult. I don't even think we have a chapter on my college. I know that there's things like these divisive concepts laws. I think it was challenged in Tennessee and standing was denied because the faculty member were not disciplined. I did get one student complaint that I'm political in my class. I don't know if that would give me enough, or if trying to challenge some of these divisive concept laws are things like what can we do in red states? We can obviously be more active in blue states, and there's things that can be done in purple states, but what kind of red state options are available for people that want to get more active and might not have any support on their college campuses?
Before we respond, Malay, do you want to jump in too? Because it seems like you have a similar question, so let's hear from you. And then Fuat, I promise we'll get to you before we shut down, but go ahead, Malay, if your question is similar.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Can everyone hear me? Okay. My name is Malay. I'm a professor. I'm at faculty at Arizona State. And one of the things we've noticed has been complete silence by the administration. And many of us are not surprised, I think partly given the personality and propensity of the university president. But there has been, I think, a larger concern about what room for maneuver we have as universities in red states. partly because the concern is not only about being targeted by the Trump administration, but by being targeted by a local Arizona legislature, which is lockstep with the administration. And so I think partly in a kind of preservationist mode of maintaining relationships with the Arizona Republican Party, there has been a kind of silencing. And I'm just wondering if folks at other state universities have noticed that, and especially in red states, and if they have any kind of specific recommendations on how to move university administrations in that kind of climate. Thank you.
I don't know if we have an answer. I think we promised to do this some months back, was to create a caucus of our, not maybe caucus isn't the right word, but at least a table for our chapters in red states so that they can collectively brainstorm strategies of how to approach these questions. One thing I'll mark, and so I maybe Mia and I will get together and think through getting that done, and then reach out to the chapters and invite you in. And Leslie, I think, who's in the chat now, could be really helpful in this as well. One thing I'll say though is, there's legal questions which we hear coming up. There's also questions about the material impacts of the funding cuts to universities in the red states. And those are serious. And we need to be in the offices of our elected leaders. Alabama's a great example. The NIH cuts are gonna devastate Alabama, devastate the state of Alabama. We need to be in the offices of the US congregation or congressional delegation in Alabama, telling them the impact of the NIH cuts on the state and forcing them to reckon with the material consequences. And so I think we need a much better plan here. I'm happy, and so we'll step back and we'll figure out a space for the some of the red state chapters and even purple and swing state chapters to think together about how to do this work more successfully. We'll follow up on that. I commit. We lost it last time when someone brought this up, but I also want to make sure we get to, I'm saying your name right, Fuat, before we shut down for the night. So please jump in.
Yes, thank you very much. I couldn't be in the meeting from the beginning, so if this has been discussed, I apologize. I have two questions. One of them is, by the way, I am from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, so it's one of the red states. And there's a huge assault on academic freedoms and higher education in our state at this point in time. Now, I was wondering if it is possible to organize across different campuses educational forums. Now, the problem is with our university is a lot of people are ready to out in these forums. But if we had some national speakers, I remember, for example, Naomi Klein did a great talk. So if we could get her on a tour, she could come by different, campuses and talk about the consequences of these assaults on academic freedoms and higher education. That's one thing. Is it possible to organize something like this? Secondly, is we are a national organization. I know across the country, in some parts of the country, there have been, rallies. But I'm wondering, is it possible as a national organization to organize a walk on Washington kind of national, rally where we could maybe have hundreds of thousands of people and really get into, get people to realize and recognize the movement much more clearly. Thank you very much.
Those are wonderful questions. One, as someone said it in the chat, there's a fantastic state conference that's actually the only one merged between I think it's the only merged AUP AFT state conference. Brian Evans is our amazing leader there, and also Zeph Capo for K-12 from the AFT side. And so I think we should work with them to do something statewide. And then, yeah, like there's no problem. I mean, I can't promise Naomi could come, but we can ask her. But if we can't get her, we can get somebody else. And if you think that's going to be helpful, let's do it. And then the other thing I'll just say is I think the plan is to move towards a national action in the early fall. And so that's what we need to, but we ourselves, AAUP certainly, doesn't have the bandwidth to do this alone. And I don't think higher ed does. I think we need to, as we were saying, we need to band together with other sectors and we need to make that plan. And maybe at first it just needs to be a march, but a march might not be enough. I want to return us to that concept. So we are going to really work to get a plan that is aligned with our K-12 brothers and sisters, with healthcare workers, with people standing up around Palestine, with the May Day folks, with the federal workers folks, and figure out what a strategy is that can build alignment here. And then we're gonna bring it back to you and we're gonna ask, as Mia said, because this only works if it goes down to the chapter level and it's at the grassroots. We're gonna ask you to help us organize it and then build towards something in the fall. And so we'll be back with that plan soon. I think we were all waiting for May Day. And so I think there'll be some meetings where we start to think about this. Thank you all for coming. I want to give Rotua and Mia a chance to have some last thoughts, but I just want to say we're going to keep moving all forward and we're not taking one step back, and we're going to meet this moment. And Mia, Rotua, I pass to you.
I cannot agree more, Todd. We need to keep moving forward, building the organization. And we're going to organize and we're going to fight and we're going to win this.
Rotua said it best. I don't have anything to add. Organize, fight, win.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We're going to end the meeting now.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.